All right, how about we make a video over doing bar chords because Twitch decided to delete my last one. Yeah. Okay, so let's get right into this. We're going to go over how to do bar chords. In this video, it might be a little bit long. I got to paint with the broad brush because I'm not there to see what specifically is going wrong. So we're going to have a bit of an advisement going around. But the basics are we're going to go over what is a bar chord. How do you know you're doing it right? The ergonomics of the instrument that makes it complicated, and the ergonomics of our bodies, which makes it fail. We're also going to go over some steps for success, and then we're going to go over how to do a practice routine. And that practice routine that we do, that's going to allow us to incrementally improve. So if you can't do it currently by doing the practice routine, you'll eventually be able to get to where you'd like to be. Okay, so let's start out with what is a bar chord, right? A bar chord is where you hold down multiple strings and you play them. How do you know it sounds right? It should sound something like that. If it sounds like this, that's not right, right? Today I learned. So the deal with that is that we usually tell you to start out with the F chord, right? That's really freaking hard because of the ergonomics of the instrument. The hardest spot to do bar chords on a guitar is at the first fret, okay? And the hardest way to do a bar chord is with all the strings. So when someone says, hey, come on, let's do the F chord, I might make it look easy, but I've been playing guitar for a long time. Okay, so if you move farther up the neck to somewhere more comfortable, I think around the 7th fret is a nice spot. Okay, and not trying to do all the strings, right? So if you're having some extreme difficulty, that's fine. You can start out with 2 strings, right? Move your way up to 3, right? The practice segment later on in this video, we'll go over how to go from 2 strings to 3 strings to 4, 5, 6. And then you go from the 6 strings down to the first string by doing this repeatable practice routine. Okay, so that's the ergonomics of the guitar that makes it difficult, right? It's the 6 strings and how it's very difficult to do the F chord as a starting bar chord, right? Okay, so what about ourselves? What makes it difficult for ourselves to do this, right? Well, for one, our knowledge and our muscle memory. Those 2 things make it very difficult to do bar chords, okay? So our knowledge, like, did you know? If you try and do a bar chord at like the nut, it's really freaking hard. This instrument has 16 size strings, so it has bigger strings than an acoustic guitar. It is an electric, but it's a baritone. It's basically a bass guitar. I wanted to pick something that was difficult to do bar chords on, so I could show you, like, legit. I cannot make that work. So if I'm squeezing over here at the nut, it's not going to work. You have to have the knowledge to know to go up snug to this fret, and it's much easier. Okay, and that goes for every single fret. Okay, and for any finger that I choose to do this with, like my ring finger, right? I should be able to do this with my ring finger, I think. Right? Okay, how about with my pinky? That's really freaking hard for me. That was pretty close, okay? I got that one, okay? Okay. Without that piece of knowledge, I couldn't get it right with my pointer. But with that piece of knowledge, I was able to bar chord with my pinky, okay? So be snug up on the fret, okay? Snug, not back here. Up here. That's the 1st fret bar chord position. This is the 2nd fret bar chord position. This is the 3rd fret bar chord position. The other thing to kind of note is this is tuned B to B. If it doesn't sound like your guitar, it shouldn't. It's baritone. I'm just making it harder for me to do the bar chords to kind of prove a point, because I know a lot of you have acoustics, and I know a lot of players have smaller hands than mine, and this can be a very difficult experience to learn. And I don't want to start you off in a position of failing by saying, let's do the F chord, right? Let's work our way up to being able to do the F chord. And once you work your way up to being able to do the F chord, you'll also know the exact same steps that I took to make it so I can use my pinky to do a bar chord. Because if I can do a bar chord with my pinky, you can do a bar chord with your index finger most of the time. Okay? So that's part of the knowledge portion of doing the bar chord, right? The other part is that we're not doing the whole F chord, we're just doing the bar. We're focusing on the bar because that's what we want to get down solid. It is the hardest part of doing this until you get into like really weird, like half diminished chords and stuff. Okay, so let's just focus on one thing at a time. Okay, and the next steps for the ergonomics has to do not with your hand so much, but with your elbow, right? Your wrist, for the large part, complies with your elbow. There can be some issues with your wrist, but that has to be observed in person. If you're like really out of whack with your wrist, that's usually, you know, it's kind of obvious. If your wrist isn't looking like mine, or it's pretty relaxed, and I'm not having a bad time right now with it, right? I've got a classical-ish type upright playing position. My hands are semi-parallel to the frets. My wrist isn't, you know, okay? So just make sure your wrist isn't completely bonkers. You should be good. But your elbow controls the entire logistics over if this bar chord is even going to happen. So before you start just like overexerting yourself and wearing your hands out, squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and think if I just squeeze harder, it might go right. The real problem is most likely in your elbow. And about 90% of the time, once we get the basics down, it's the elbow. Your elbow, too far out, if you notice, right? So let's go back to here, right? Your elbow's too far out. Well, I'm no longer semi-parallel to the fret. Your elbow's too far in, I am no longer semi-parallel to the fret. Can I make this work? Yeah. Can I make this work? Yeah, I can. It's just really difficult, okay? You shouldn't be struggling that much. This position right here, super easy. This position, it sucks, okay? I don't want to do that a lot. I want to do this, okay? The other part is forward and backwards, okay? A lot of people, when they begin playing, they'll start with the high strings because they think, I can hold down 2. Okay, I can hold down 3. And they're doing this fingertip motion where they're like clawing and bending. They're putting a crook in their finger. And then they've got 1, 2, but this one doesn't work. So they think to themselves, okay, I'll just pull my elbow back and I got it. Awesome, that worked. I pull my elbow back and that crook that isn't solved, it fixed the problem. Okay, now I can do 4 strings. And it works. And you get up to 5 strings and it stops working. When your elbow is pulled too far back, it makes it so that pushing down the low end strings can't happen because your finger can't possibly overcome that pull that your elbow's doing. Because what you're actually doing is you're just pulling the strings down by pulling your elbow, okay? You're not supposed to use your elbow to pull the strings down. The next issue is where people have their wrist too far forward. This is for relaxed players. There are lots of players who have very little issue getting these done, right? But they get to this low string up here and they allow their elbow to come too far forward. And it makes so the treble side doesn't work right? So low works, and then suddenly all these trebles don't work. If you pull the elbow towards you, then it will allow your finger to properly line up with the fret. Okay, so remember, your elbow is controlling all of that. Left, right, forward, back. If your elbow is too far forward, then your treble side will suffer. If your elbow is pulled too far to you, then your bass side will suffer. And you always want to keep like an accusatory finger, like you're pointing at someone, a straight finger when you do this. Okay, and getting the muscle memory for having a straight finger and having your thumb right back here assisting your finger, right? You notice how I didn't tell you where to put your thumb? Everybody has different sized hands. Different guitars have different sized guitar necks. The point of the position of the thumb is to assist you in squeezing. It's like a crab, right? It's also like that little heart-shaped thing, right? People put their thumbs together, they make that cute heart thing. That's adorable. If only those Korean dramas didn't hurt me so bad emotionally, right? So you're squeezing it, squeezing. Where's the camera at? Here, squeeze, squeeze. When I use my middle finger, I squeeze, and I squeeze, and I squeeze, and I squeeze. That squeezing motion, building up strength in that, building up the muscle memory to squeeze and squeeze will require repetition. You can have all the knowledge in the world of knowing squeeze, 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 but until you sit on the guitar and go squeeze, 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 you're not going to build the muscle memory up. So repetition is going to build your muscle memory up. Okay? The other part about that is that with your muscle memory, you have to be close to doing it correctly, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. Imperfect practice makes imperfect results. You don't want to like min-max that with your life. That really sucks. But you want to be close. Like if you want to start at a spot where you can incrementally move your way up. We're almost in the practice segment, right? We're so close. But you just need to give your body time to learn the muscle memory, right? To learn that pressure that's developing with the thumb and the finger, okay? Let's just make sure that we haven't missed too much of anything. Okay. The one thing that we've not covered is what's called overfretting. You probably don't have this problem. There are very few people who have this problem. I am a person who had this problem because I'm originally a bass player. Overfretting is where you push down too hard. So here's your regular note, right? Overfretting is when you notice it went sharp, regular, sharp, right? Overfretting is where you push down too hard. You can do it with bar chords too. I did with my original guitars. When I get done playing this guitar, I overfret like crazy because it has 16s on it. So it's only for people who have obnoxiously strong hands and they just overexert when they play. I have to learn to play soft. Some people have to learn to strengthen up, right? Most people strengthen up. Not a lot of people like finesse down. All right, so now let's get into the steps for success that we're going to implement for the practice routine, okay? So number one, pick the right spot, right? Remember, you have to start somewhere where you can succeed. Don't set yourself up for failure. You probably don't want to start at the F chord. Probably don't want to start there. You can start farther up the instrument where it's easier, right? In the middle sections is where it's easier. So like 7 and 9 fret, usually pretty good. And you might say, oh, I tried it. I can't get the 6th string right, but I can get all those right. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's say you're saying, no, you're like, I can barely get 2. That's a starting point. This is what's called your baseline. Write it down. Say, this is where I'm starting. If your baseline does not have all 6 strings, your baseline will have 2. You'll learn the practice routine. You'll do the practice routine. Then you'll move to 3. And when you develop 3 to your new baseline, which means you can do it successfully, you move to 4, you move to 5, you move to 6. When you get to 6 strings at the spot where you're comfortable, then you move towards the headstock with each incremental practice until finally, and then at some point you will do the F chord, right? So that way it's step by step. You get your bass strings at your comfortable spot, right? It could be 2 strings, it could be 3 strings. We work our way up to 6. Once we get to 6 strings, we go from your comfortable spot and we just march our way down to that F chord position. Okay, that way we have spots where you can succeed, you can develop, and you can write this down and realize I'm accomplishing something. I'm not just failing at the F chord for hours. I'm not just squeezing the hell out of my hands, having sore hands, and wow, my hands are so sore I really can't play today, and that's a real good reason to stop playing. Okay? And that's what I typically see. People have really sore hands from trying to do F chords. Let's just take it easy. Let's just incrementally walk our way there. It really doesn't take all that much time to do this. I think the longest I've ever seen it take was 3 weeks. Me to do my pinky, after I learned to do it with my pointer, my middle, my ring, right? My pinky took a solid week of just doing this. I think I did 3 times a day for 3 minutes, and that worked for me on a regular guitar. On this guitar, I still have difficulty. Like I can do, right? Very close. Let's adjust it a little bit, right? There we go. Right? That's my pinky. I'm doing a bar chord with my pinky. Yay. Okay. So yes, pick the right location. Set yourself up for success. And only being able to do 2 strings isn't a failure. Only being able to do 5 isn't a failure. And slowly walking your way to the 1st fret to be able to do the F chord, that's not being a failure. That's looking at a problem and having a reasonable solution that you can use to get to where you'd like to be. Okay. The next portion of this is have your elbow position sorted out. You found your comfortable spot, get your elbow sorted out. You know, are you semi-parallel when you're doing your bar chord? You know, is it semi-parallel? Is it like this? Is it like that? Like, we don't want any of that. We want it semi-parallel, and we want it in the right spot. Snug up on that fret, semi-parallel to it. Not on top of the fret, right? Remember, this is what on top of the fret sounds like. And this is what behind the fret sounds like. So on top, see that weird muted like harp sound? And then this is guitar, right? So we don't want to be on top, we want to be right next to it. And if we're having some difficulty doing it, just roll that finger into the fret and use the natural curvature of the fret to make that little pinch point, okay? So you've got the right location. You got your elbow left and right correct. Then forward or backwards. Are you having trouble with the treble side? And your fingers are probably too far forward. You need to bring them back. Relax, relax, relax. Get some squeezes in. And then what if your bass side's too bad? That means that your elbow's pulled way too far back, so your bass can't connect, right? So you got to bring it forward. Okay, so left, right, forward, back. Get the elbow right. Location, elbow, then your thumb. Your thumb has to be in a spot to be able to do that little crab squeeze, right? Can you do that crab squeeze, right? And then if you need a little bit more, you can roll your finger sideways, right? There we go. So right here, I roll my finger into it. Roll my finger into it. So I can feel the side of the fret with my finger when I push down, and the frets, they are little tiny hills. They're little tiny hills, okay? And because the fret is a little tiny hill with a dome, you can hit the side of it, and it won't have that weird, like, sound. It'll sound like a guitar, okay? So you can roll into it. It'll make it a little bit easier. You can kind of pinch that string in that spot, okay? So pick the right spot to succeed. Get your elbow left, right, forward, back. Get it in the right spot. Have your thumb able to do the squeeze. Roll your finger if you need to catch it to get a little bit more pressure. Okay, so how do I practice this? Well, we've been doing it the whole time. But the idea is pressure, play, release, mute. Okay, so it's pressure, I push down, play, release, mute. Pressure, play, release, mute. This prevents us from doing the death grip where we just hold down and we, right? Okay, we don't want to do that. We want to pressure, play, release, mute. Okay, when you play bar chords, it's not about how long you can hold them. It's about being able to move between different chords, move through different exchanges, right? Right? All those different chords in there. It's about making exchanges and having that pressure, getting that pressure and having it available whenever you need to do it. It's not about be holding it for 20 minutes. It's about squeeze, play, release, play. You might be wondering, why is it pressure, play, release, mute? Why is there a release and a mute, right? Because if you play and then you release, your mute should sound like that. It should not sound like this. If you find that you can't release your finger, it means you're overexerting. It means your hand's too tired to do this exercise. Like, give it a day or two off. Like, let it relax. Put it in some hot water. Stretch your fingers. Shake it out a bit, okay? When fingers get tired, they either get weak or they get stiff. And sometimes someone's fingers get stiff. And if your fingers start getting really stiff and stuck, take some time, take some time off. Don't hurt your hands. The more you hurt yourself getting better at guitar, the more time it's going to take to get good at guitar. Okay? So pressure, play, release, mute. Pressure, play, release, mute. Mute. Okay. So you're saying how do I do that as an exercise? What is the time frame that I do that in? It's 3 minutes. You set a timer for 3 minutes. Okay? 3 minutes. Pressure, play, release, mute. Set a metronome. I set mine at like 100 BPM, right? And I'm not going to use a metronome because this is the ultimate scuff setup. Everything's timing is out of sync. If you can't tell, there's a lot of syncing problems with this recording because OBS decided to go to 128, and it's a living nightmare for me. But pressure, play, release, mute, getting that squeeze, okay? And you do it for 3 minutes, and then you take a break. You really shouldn't be doing that more than like 3 to 4 times a day, but some people can do it 10 times a day and they feel perfectly fine, right? Those are typically the people who have lots and lots of natural talent. I don't. 3 times a day was more than enough to like wear me out. And you do that, right, on your bass line, just when you first start out. So if your bass line's 2, you're going to be doing pressure, play, release, mute. Pressure, play, release, mute, okay? You'll do that for 3 minutes at a tempo that you feel comfortable with, okay? And that tempo gives you a bit of an edge. You can say to yourself, I feel like I could do this faster, or I feel like I need to do this slower, based on how much you're exerting your hand. Allow the BPM to be how you control your practice. Don't let your BPM control you. You're the one in charge of the time when you practice. Then, if you felt really good about the bass line when you were doing this exercise, you said, I nailed that, I should move up a step, then move up a step. So if you were only doing 2 strings previously, now you do 3 strings. And if you say, I did that great, the next practice repetition, I feel like I can do that. And you get to 4 and there's some problems. Well, remember, left, right, forward, back with your elbow. Make sure your thumb is in a place where you can squeeze and support it, right? And then roll to get it up on the fret, and make sure you're in that forward towards the body location on the fret, right? I'm here, not there. Or for a better example, I am here, not there. Here, for the 5th fret, bar chord. Not here. I'm here, 5th fret bar chord, not on the back side. Towards the body, not towards the headstock. Okay? Make those adjustments. Give it a try. Right? Get those 4 strings 3 minutes in. You do it. You don't feel super confident about it. Give it some reps. Let that muscle memory squeeze, 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 build up. Okay, and then within usually under 5 reps, that 4th string is nailed. Okay, and that's 15 minutes of total practice. And you want to spread that over a couple days. And you move to 5 strings. And usually by the time you get that 4th string all figured out, the 5 string comes really easy. 6 string comes really easy. And the easiest thing in the world is someone goes from their comfortable spot. They say, oh yeah, I got 6 down. I can do this for 3 minutes. Easy peasy, no problem. Or they're like, oh look, I can even do it with my ring finger. Can I do it with my pinky? Or if you want a better view. Right? And they go, that's awesome. I can do this. I can do this with all 6 strings. Going to the 1st fret after you get all 6 and you've got this exercise built up is incredibly easy. You'll just, it's usually like one exercise after the next exercise after the next exercise, right? So you'll get there and stick with it, get that pulse going. Don't do it until it hurts. Don't do it until your fingers start getting stuck and rigid. Take some time off, let your hands relax. You can take a day or 2 off, okay? And then just doing the repetition, doing the exercise, you'll eventually get to that F chord position that everyone tells you to start at, that you don't need to start at, right? So that's how you do bar chords, right? Occasionally, some people have a very odd like finger crook thing they do. That finger crook thing, this muscle memory, squeeze, boop, squeeze, boop, squeeze, boop, helps get rid of that crook. So if you notice you've got that crook and you're like, oh, the middle strings, I'm missing the middle strings, this sucks. Keep doing the exercise. The middle strings will eventually come. You just keep doing that movement over and over and over again. And it gets those middle strings all sorted out. It's kind of rare for the middle strings not to get covered if you get the elbow position right, but getting that squeeze, the muscle memory, that strength building you're going to get with it, that's going to result in all the strings getting held down and you being able to do it. Plus, you having your elbow sorted, you fretting at the easiest part of the instrument to fret in the right spot at the right angle. It's going to make it a lot easier for you, and it's going to help it so that you're not just hurting your hand trying to learn this exercise. All right, so hope this was informative, and hope you have a great rest of your day, and feel free to let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or I don't know, what else, whatever you got, right? All right, so have a great day. Thanks for watching.